Hey everybody, here's Tony from the Saskatones from Saskatchewan. How are you, Tony?
Pretty good. How are you?
Awesome. Tony Salomone, tell me um, how you've come to make this brand of kind of garagey surf instrumental music.
Yeah.
And where are you located? Saskatchewan, Canada, correct?
Not no, not actually. So this is I can give you that story maybe to clarify at the
Yeah.
start. So the Saskatones started it like 20 years ago about. I ran a record label of Kitchener Waterloo that's actually in Ontario, so we're near Toronto. Um, yeah, so Dadmobile Records. I was playing surf music on the side while I had other bands that were touring. Started this band called the Saskatones. I was trying not to distract from my other bands at the time, so I came up with this whole fake biography and fake story that I was from Saskatchewan, which actually it was just secretly me and some guys in a basement in Kitchener Waterloo. And so we had a really good time doing that, just making that kind of music. It was stuff that we loved, stuff that I've always loved. Canada's got a pretty wild surf history here of sort of, yeah, you kind of hit it. Like, I think a lot of the bands that were playing surf in the 80s and 90s in Canada were kind of coming out of a punk, garage, sort of background, and it lent a lot to a certain style. But yeah, so we were on kind of went on hiatus for a while there, and I think the pandemic kind of knocked us back into, oh man, I really want to do something fun with people, and it was sort of the motivation to get this going together. So we got this big ambitious project, got the guys back together, and we've been playing for the last couple of years now, basically ever since. A little more forward about where we actually are, since all of our shows are in Ontario, not Saskatchewan.
Nice, nice. What's you're the guitar player? I'm guessing.
Yeah. So we're a three-piece. One of those bands that kind of goes nuts on record sometimes. It gets a little tricky to pull it off with three people live, but yeah, it's just a guitar, bass, drums.
Yeah.
We can kind of see I have a passion for synths as well, so lots of that.
Oh
going on
yeah,
in the
yeah. You
background.
definitely hear it in the music, but it's quite interesting, and you'll hear the music playing on the bed of this interview in the background. It is. I mean, of course, it's got that 80s type synth thing, but also kind of like a nod to the organs, from the 60s, right? You think?
Yeah, oh, yeah. I like the old. There's especially even when it comes to like synthy electronic stuff. I have a passion for that vintage analog stuff that is you can barely keep it in tune, and you usually end up servicing it as much as you're playing it. But it has that like you're barely in control of it at any time, and it's just kind of I don't know. I think it adds to that like chaotic part of the sound. Yeah, I like that. I like the old organ and the old like theremin kind of stuff too. All those sounds, that sort of sci-fi vibe, I guess, from some older surf.
Yeah, totally. Tell me a little bit about some of the different gear and instruments that you can't go without, even if they're not on the record. Tell me like something that you're like, oh man, I love playing this thing.
Well, that's a good question. We use probably too much, we're one of those people who's I don't know, everybody's sort of a gearhead that I'm playing with these days, so I don't think that we're like necessarily exceptional, but when we play live, I usually end up having to use like my main pedal board that I play live with, I think has at least 3 different delays on it. So, and 3 levels of distortion overdrive. So for all the different effects you can have, there's just kind of a couple that we care a lot about. And then you end up spending a lot of real estate making up for that. I also usually bring a sort of a sampler that we use live just to be able to trigger stuff and, add to that when we play. But That's more just to fill in for the three-piece-ness of the band, I think.
Yeah.
Don't actually bring the synths and that kind of stuff out live. It doesn't fit in the vehicle. So
Oh, okay. All right.
economically, just got to figure out how to do that stuff. But down here, it's just always, I love playing with that kind of stuff and just experimenting with that.
Have you? Because I did hear some keys on the recordings that are on Bandcamp, which will be a link in the description. But have you considered getting like a stand-in player for the band when they play live to play keys? I mean, they wouldn't have to come with an instrument, right?
Or even second guitar. Usually have a couple of multi-tracks. Yeah, I don't know. We've thought about it for sure. Part of especially when you've been doing this for a while, you start playing, you get like a connection with certain folks that you played with for a long time. So the three of us who are playing right now in the Saskatones, we all played in different bands in town for like 20 years. And it was kind of as people moved on with their lives and did other things, it came down to like the three of us that I think had that passion and connection, where you can actually figure this stuff out and find a way to make things work on the fly. And so it's almost like just as much, I don't want to sound self-centered or whatever, but it's about us having a good time and a social aspect to it to keep you going. You gotta love it, you gotta love what you're doing and to keep going.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, we know lots of folks in town. I think probably maybe even just bringing up some guests or something next time we play, I think will be the way that we handle it.
I know some folks in Canada who really, really love to collaborate with other musicians. They go by the name of Jason Deathridge and the Surfers.
Oh,
British Columbia.
Okay, I've heard the name, but I don't know them at all. So that's cool.
Yeah,
we'll
all you gotta do is send him a message, and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, let's do it."
Yeah, I mean that's the amazing thing, now is we're overcoming distance so much easier. We've actually done recordings where we've had people in a province contribute to stuff we're working on. Even I think the second track on Mercury, the intro, we had the guy on that. He wasn't with us, but collaborate online and yeah.
A lot of people that may be watching right now might not know how rich the Canadian surf scene is because Canada is so huge and you guys are kind of spread out. There's the Green Reflectors, there's the Surf Hermits, you have Luau or Die, Mark Malibu, the Wasegas, the Green Reflectors. Oh my God! I just had them on, and so tell me what it's like to be a surf band in Ontario.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So we're pretty landlocked, right? It's funny. No one's surfing around here anytime soon. I was shoveling 2 feet of snow today. So it's funny from that regard. But yeah, we've had bands, for about 50 years, we've had sort of waves of revival come through here. And a couple of really big bands that I think have this larger influence that impact the sound. As a surf band in Kitchener-Waterloo, there's 2 other bands around here that play surf music that we know, right? So it's pretty thin. But the thing is, there's something about surf music where it's just fun and it fits in with anything. We have no problem fitting in on a bill with anybody else around. Whether it's more garagey punk or whether it's more just indie or whatever. Yeah. And so I find it's really easy. It's something where I think it's easy for people to get into live. If they don't know you, sometimes, it's hard to when some other random bands up there, but surf's pretty easy it's easy to explain to people what you do. People know right away. If you're looking to get coverage or you're looking to play a show, you're like, hi, we're a surf band that does songs about the planets and Godzilla monsters. I mean, you kind of know if you're going to be into it or not after 10 seconds, right? But yeah, just going back, Canada was sort of absorbed surf from elsewhere. I think the first wave of bands were just doing covers of Wipeout mostly, but we had this huge TV show here called Kids in the Hall in the 80s, and the house band on that was Shadowy Men. Shadowy Planet, and I think
Yeah,
that had to do
I
with
love
it.
that show, and I'm like, they're playing surf music. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, I think there was sort of a wave of bands that came right after that, and there was another in the early 2000s, or they're still playing now, but there was a band called the Sadies here who were kind of more, I guess, sort of country, but they worked in psychedelic and surf and western sounds, and it just made it really normal to have that kind of stuff in a lot of different scenes and shows here, and so I think these sort of big bands come through and then they influence everybody, and it makes things normal and opens up possibilities for other bands. So yeah, it's kind of cool and weird that we have this strange vibe. I don't know.
Yeah, it is really cool. It's really cool. Another thing people might be curious about is the different, because it's so difficult these days to be a full-time musician. People have they have, a trade, or they have a day job, and their passion is music a lot of times, and they spend a lot of hours dedicating that, whatever free time they have. What is it, if you're allowed to say, that you do for a living? Just so people gotta get an idea of, hey, people from all walks of life are doing this. You may not know it.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the reason I'm in Kitchener-Waterloo is many moons ago I came here to go to the university in town, and I learned computer programming. I think if you take the band as a whole, we're probably collectively kind of nerdy for musicians, but that plays out in the music a bit. We're playing songs about pretty nerdy topics, but that's what interests us and gets us up in the morning. But yeah, for sure, when we were younger, we spent a lot more time playing music, and for people who were doing full-time music, it was often about trying to find a job that allowed you the flexibility in order to if you're going to go on tour or whatever, right? It would be trying to figure out a way to do that. I've always kind of personally worked at smaller startup-y kind of companies or whatever that gave me that kind of flexibility to do what I want, and not that I don't love doing that too, but it's kind of allowing me to dive into my passion, and I think that's a reality for a lot of people now. It's especially around here, rent and stuff's pretty expensive, so
oh my God,
it's gotta have a side gig going, right?
Yeah. So, what's next for the Saskatones? You have some things coming up in the spring or summer?
Yeah, so we're kind of, I don't know, it gets pretty intense here for a couple months in the winter, and so we're kind of barreling down and recording through that. It's our plan right now, and our goal is, hopefully for spring we'll have something done for Venus. So our plan is, we released this Mercury EP last year. That was the first, but we've actually got a pile of songs we wrote, and we have this ambitious plan to do all the planets. And I don't know, we'll see how far we get. But we actually have, I have a song written for the last one already. So
nice.
We're hoping over the next couple of years, and people seem to like it. So that seems like, all right, let's keep doing it. But so for now it's trying to get Venus done and go from there, I guess.
I'm sure the planets themselves inspire the mood of the album that you're doing. What is Venus? What's the vibe on Venus going to be?
Yeah, I don't know. It started out like that, I was like, the Mercury's a rock planet, maybe it should be more rock, but it ends up like every album kind of has a mix of different things depending on what the specific songs are about. It's I don't know, it's maybe it sounds a little corny, but when you're trying to get inspiration for making this stuff, we read about planets and you just dive into it just for fun. Let's find out some random stuff. I don't know anything about this planet. And then you read it and it's absolutely insane. You're like, how does this like possible? As an example, we learned about these icy ghost craters on Mercury, and I'm like, oh, there's actually water on Mercury. I didn't know that, and it's frozen ice, and there's a place where it's minus 200 degrees on the hottest planet. And I don't know, weird stuff like that gives you like a sense of awe or whatever, and it just kind of that drives, whatever that says to us, kind of drives us forward and makes the move. But I think maybe the short answer to your question is probably as we go, it's going to get weirder. I think, the more far out.
Yeah, maybe Tokyo, a smoldering memorial to the unknown, like a little nod to Voyager, who passed Pluto and is now,
years ago, I think.
And is now sending some weird messages back.
Yeah, it's going to be out into actual outer space, I guess, by now. And things get weirder the further out you go for the planets too. One of our tracks for Saturn is Diamond Rain. Apparently, it rains diamonds on Saturn. It's sounds crazy, right?
Yeah. Have you been following the James Webb Telescope project?
A little bit, it's pretty cool, the quality of stuff that it sends back, and sends these pictures, and then they zoom in into a tiny part, and it's still like crazy. Again, it's just like almost overwhelming. I don't even know what to take from it sometimes. But,
I'm a little nerdy in the respect of I follow that and I read up, everything I can on it, and I watched it when they launched it and all that stuff. And the most recent picture that I noticed, and I was very surprised, was I want to say it was Uranus, but I wasn't aware that the rings were so prominent on it.
Yeah, I guess so. When I was growing up, it was just Saturn that had rings, and now I guess a couple of them have rings. So we're finding out all this new stuff, which is, I don't know, it's kind of fascinating. The craziest thing about James Webb Telescope is it can see so far. They say, and the light has taken like almost the age of the universe to get to us. So it's like, it's like almost magically looking back in time, and seeing something in the past, which is, I don't know, that's a crazy way to think of it, but
I think
crazy.
It's the Vatican, that Vatican machine they sent that they used to be able to look back in time with. I think that's the James Webb Telescope. I think these are belongs to that.
Time travel, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just.
I didn't know this is how it.
But anyways, thank you so much for coming on the show, Tony. And like I said, anybody who's watching can check out your Bandcamp link in the description, get to know the band. They got some really good tunes, as you can hear in the background, and Tony's a really cool guy, and he's got a great band, and thank you so much, Tony.